In Peru, workers launched a 72-hour national strike against Dina Boluarte's government due to high levels of criminality that affect the country's social stability. The United Nations temporarily suspended the delivery of humanitarian aid in Haiti due to the deteriorating security situation in the country. And in Palestine, the Israeli regime killed at least 47 Palestinians and injured more than 180 in its latest attacks on Gaza. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Peru, workers launched a 72-hour national strike against Dina Boluarte's government due to high levels of criminality that affect the country's social stability. Starting this Wednesday, workers of the transportation sector, merchants and union groups joined the strike to demand measures against crime, which affects entrepreneurs of all sectors. Those mobilized reject the crime law promoted by Boluarte's administration, which favors delinquency, and the urban terrorism law. In the last year, 17,000 complaints of extortion and 2,000 cases of homicide were registered at national level without receiving any attention from the authorities. In Argentina, the third Federal Educational March was held this November 12th. Students, teachers, and other members of the educational community marched in several points of the country to defend the public university and demand an increase in the educational budget. The mobilization sought to make visible the critical salary and budgetary situation that public education is going through, in view of the lack of funding caused by the government of Javier Milei, who vetoed the university financing law. In Buenos Aires, several sectors such as health and aeronautics supported the measure. In the vicinity of the Obelisco, the demonstrators were intimidated by a huge and disproportionate presence of police.
The
university is coming from a very hard year. The government has been attacking and destroying education at all levels. Not only in the university, but it is something generalized. Even we who have an artistic background, we see an attack that is also widespread in education, in culture, and even in health, as well as in all areas. It is a government that is coming for everything, and we are coming from a year in which we have organized ourselves with different measures of all kinds, such as this flash move.
In El Salvador, family members demand proof of life of prisoners under the emergency regime established on March 22, 2022, by the government of Nayib Bukele. Through the Proof of Life campaign, hundreds of Salvadoran families are demanding authorities to inform about the status of many people detained without clear evidence or valid charges. The lack of access to prisoners and prohibition of visits have contributed to the uncertainty, since they do not know where their family members are or even if they are alive. According to reports from different human rights organizations, approximately 30,000 of the 83,000 detainees are innocent. The United Nations temporarily suspended the delivery of humanitarian aid in Haiti due to the deteriorating security situation in the country. Humanitarian flights had to be suspended after the Haitian government decreed the closure of the Toussaint-Louverture airport. The decision came after criminal groups opened fire at an aircraft. The plane with 48 people on board had to be rerouted to the Dominican city of Santiago, and subsequently JetBlue reported another attack against one of its aircraft. As a result, the UN had to delay the movement of 20 truckloads of critical medicines and supplies and is now contemplating moving its air operations to an airport in the north of the country. A new wave of violence generated by armed criminal groups spread through Haiti on Monday amid great political instability, culminating in the replacement of Prime Minister Gary Conille. See the details in the following report by our colleague Charlotte Dafoe.
Empty streets, silent schools, closed stores. Port-au-Prince residents woke up on Monday with the warning to stay at home, as gunfire began to reverberate in several neighborhoods of the city. In the afternoon, a Spirit Airlines commercial flight was hit by gunfire and had to divert its route, which led to the suspension of air traffic over the capital. This explosion of violence occurred on the day of the nomination of the new Prime Minister, Alex Didier Filzame. In his first speech, Phil Zame stressed the urgency of resolving the problems of insecurity and freedom of movement in the country.
Le premier chantier incontournable et qui conditionne la réussite de la transition est le...
The first essential task that will determine the success of the transition is to reestablish the security of people, property and infrastructure, food security, and freedom of movement throughout the country.
The United Nations, for their part, called on the country's political forces to overcome their differences and move towards the restoration of order. They also called on member states to collaborate with security operations on the island.
First remains a critical to that end. The Secretary General appeals to all member states to sustain and increase their security support for Haiti, including through multinational security support mission, ensuring that it receives the financial support it needs to successfully implement its mandate and expand deployment and operations. Latest political developments, the Secretary General urges all Haitian stakeholders to work constructively together to advance the political transition as agreed upon on March 11th in Jamaica. A third and a half of armed gang members are children under the age of 18.
According to the UN, armed gangs now control up to 85% of the capital, imposing a climate of terror on the population and making the country's democratic transition impossible.
In other news, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump arrived in Washington, D.C. to meet outgoing President Joe Biden in the White House Oval Office. Trump's meeting with Biden comes as he moves swiftly to name his top team, including Tesla and ex-owner Elon Musk, as head of a new group aimed at cutting government expenditure. Biden invited his sworn rival to meet in the Oval Office, despite the fact that Trump, who has consistently refused to admit his 2020 election loss, never afforded Biden the same courtesy. U.S. National Security Advisor Jack Sullivan said Biden will go over top foreign policy issues when he meets Trump, including U.S. support for Ukraine, which Trump has criticized. The outgoing president pledged to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition of power. And now we have a short break coming up, but first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Palestine, the Israeli regime killed at least 47 Palestinians and injured more than 180 in its latest attacks on Gaza. The Palestinian Health Ministry reported 43,712 people killed since the beginning of the Israeli genocide, with approximately 103,000 wounded. Authorities pointed out that Israeli forces committed 7 massacres against several families in residential areas, causing hundreds of wounded. In a report, the United Nations Palestine denounced that at least 70% of civilians killed by the Israeli attacks are women and children. Authorities also affirm that the health crisis is worsening with the lack of medical supplies. On Tuesday, local Palestinian authorities declared that the Israeli occupation forces killed and wounded several Palestinian citizens in the cities of Gaza and Han Yunis. In addition, they also reported that the Israeli attack, which resulted in at least 1 death, targeted civilians in the town of Kisan Rashwan, located in the southwest of Han Yunis. There were also reports of the attack on a house northwest of the city of Gaza by Israeli occupation forces, which left several civilians dead and wounded, and the total burning of the Maria al-Shawwa school, where displaced Palestinians were being housed in Beni Hanun, north of Gaza. In Lebanon, authorities registered a new Israeli airstrike in Beirut. Occupation forces shut down a building and attacked civilian targets in the capital's Dahiyeh district. Before attacking, Israeli troops issued evacuation orders for neighborhoods of Goubeiri and Hared Creek, south of Beirut, for allegedly being Hezbollah resistance movement locations. The Lebanese authorities have not reported or commented on any casualties. Only images of the impact of the attack have been broadcast in local media, while Israel stated that in this second phase of its ground operation it will destroy Hezbollah's rocket launching capability. In Pakistan, a bus veered off the road on Tuesday and it fell into the Indus River at the teleSUR bridge, bringing about 14 deaths and 13 missing in Punjab province. In the Gilgit-Baltistan region, authorities reported that the driver lost control of the bus due to reaching high speed. He was taking a bride, a groom, and their guests to celebrate a wedding at Chakwal city in Punjab province. In addition, reports confirmed 14 deaths, including that of the bride who died at a nearby hospital from her serious injuries. Currently, rescue teams are still looking for 12 missing persons. However, experts described as unlikely the chance of any survivors grounded in freezing weather conditions. In Mozambique, the opposition leader and presidential candidate Venancio Mondlane called for new protests against the alleged fraud committed in the elections of last October 9th. In this sense, he urged his followers to demonstrate in ports, border posts, and big cities starting this Wednesday. Since October 21st, the presidential aspirant has called for general strike days and mobilizations against the alleged irregularities in the elections. Although the election day was calm, the observation mission of the European Union found irregularities in the counting of votes. Mondlane assures that the objective is not to carry out a coup d'etat, but to put pressure on the institutions of justice so that the electoral truth is restored. Somaliland, the self-proclaimed independent region of Somalia, kicked off presidential elections on Wednesday amid regional tensions. More than 1 million people will vote in this election process. 3 candidates are running for the presidency, including the country's current president, Musbihi Abdi, who has been in power since 2017 and whose mandate was extended for 2 years in 2022 due to alleged technical and financial obstacles. The elections take place during a diplomatic crisis with Somalia following the agreement signed last January where the Somaliland government granted Ethiopia access to the Red Sea. And the World Food Programme, along with the Food and Agriculture Organization and the United Nations Children's Fund, warned that 33 million Nigerians could face food insecurity by 2025. The UN entities reported that Nigeria has been hit by record inflation due to climate crisis and armed conflicts, so that other 8 million people would need assistance by 2025 compared to the current 25 million people in need. Likewise, the WFP spokesperson for Nigeria, Sheila Hell, assured that 5.4 million children and 800,000 pregnant and breastfeeding women may suffer from acute malnutrition or wasting. The authority added that the country faces a huge hunger crisis in the second half of 2025, particularly in the northeastern states of Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe, home to some 5 million people who are facing acute food insecurity. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Italy, a report finds that more than 1.2 million children live in poverty and social exclusion. According to a report prepared by the Catholic Church's pastoral agency Caritas, in the last 10 years, the percentage of Italian families suffering from poverty and social exclusion has increased. In 2014, it went from 6.9% to 9.7%, while in 2023, the figure reached 97.2% only in the northern, industrialized and wealthy areas of the country. The document proposes the establishment of a universal and continuous support system to avoid the exclusion of so many people living in absolute poverty in Italy. In Portugal, Web Summit 2024 has been underway since Monday, November 11th until Thursday, November 14th in Parque das Nações. The Lisbon project is a meeting for immigrant entrepreneurs and sets a record of 71,528 participants from 153 countries. It is worth noticing that women have founded over 44% of the startups. Furthermore, this is a flagship event which has been taking place every November in the Portugal capital for over 12 years. In 2024, Web Summit will host the following encounters: Web Summit Rio in South America, Web Summit Qatar in the Middle East, Coalition and Web Summit Vancouver in North America, and RISE in Asia.
I'm the founder of the startup Travador. We use robots to reforest hard-to-reach areas, and this is my first time at Web Summit. And so far, it's been a good experience. We've spoken to a lot of people who want to form partnerships with us. Whether they're investors or customers who want to put our machines in the field, it's all been very productive.
In Indonesia, the Lewotowi Laki-Laki volcano spewed more plumes of hot ash into the air Wednesday following a major eruption that killed at least 9 people on November 4th. During the day, smoke was seen rising from the crater and villages were completely covered with ash, forcing residents to move to temporary shelters. Several international airlines suspended flights to and from the island of Bali, keeping thousands of passengers stranded at the airports. The volcano of more than 1,500 meters approximately is located on the remote island of Flores in the province of East Nusa Tenggara. And on Wednesday, India's capital New Delhi dawned covered by a grayish blanket of environmental pollution that partially prevented visibility, thus becoming the most polluted city in the world. According to measurements by the Swiss platform IQ Air, the level of air quality in the Indian capital is hazardous to health. A combination of factors such as the burning of agricultural waste, industrial emissions, and adverse weather conditions generate a dense layer of smog that envelops the city. Before New Delhi, the Pakistani city of Lahore had topped the ranking of the world's most polluted cities in recent weeks. And in Chile, authorities declared a red alert this November 12th due to several simultaneous outbreaks of forest fires in 51 communes, mainly in the regions of Valparaíso, Metropolitana, O'Higgins, and Maule. The declaration of red alert allows the identification of areas that could have a higher risk of combustion and spread of forest fires. National Forestry Corporation indicated that so far the fires have consumed 160 hectares in the areas of Los Molles, Quilpue, and Valparaíso. In view of the spread of the forest fires, the evacuation of residents in communes such as Los Molles, Quilpue, and Villa Alemana is being evaluated. And in Cuba, until Tuesday afternoon, 1,966 aftershocks were registered after the earthquake that occurred on Sunday in Pilon, Granma province. According to the doctor in science, Enrique Arango, head of the National Seismological Service, 71 replicas were presumably perceptible, and the investigators will be able to determine soon the intensity of the earthquake of magnitude 6.7 on the Richter scale that shook the east of Cuba more than 48 hours ago. Cuban Civil Defense Party and government officials toured the provinces affected by the earthquake. Cuban authorities reported 10 people injured following the strong earthquakes that hit the eastern region last Sunday. Cuba's National Defense Council, led by the country's President Miguel Diaz-Canel, held on Tuesday a new session to follow up on the progress made in the recovery after the seismic event. During the meeting, a detailed review was made with the authorities of Santiago de Cuba, Granma, Artemisa, Mayabeque, and La Habana on the actions taken in response to damages caused by the tremors and their aftershocks. In Granma, 10 people were reported injured and a total of 3,519 infrastructure damage, of which 54 were total collapses. And keeping up with the environmental situation in the Caribbean region, the Cuban Meteorological Service reports the formation of a wide zone of low pressures, forecasting the formation of tropical storm that could become a hurricane. This system will move slowly over the next few days, with a course close to the west over the western Caribbean Sea. There we will find favorable conditions, both atmospheric and at the sea, for a better organization and development, with a high probability of becoming a tropical cyclone within 2 or 3 days. Since a cyclonic organism has not yet formed, and given the changeable nature of the atmosphere, neither the trajectory nor the intensity can be predicted with certainty. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.